being proactive, you can get excited about dating. So is dating just another thing on your to-do list? We don't want it to be, you know. If we want to approach dating from seeing it as an opportunity, you know, it's great to be single, and there's a lot of opportunities associated with it. And if you've got kind of negative thoughts about it, it's been said that we are like a 24-hour broadcasting system. So as we said earlier with the CBT, if you've got thoughts in your mind, these are coming out through your behaviour and everything else. So if you're quite negative about dating, like, you know, this is my, you know, 30th date, you know, not getting anywhere, then it's going to show up as well. So it's just really important to get into a mindset where you feel that it's exciting and that it's going to be, you've got high expectations. Great. If you're thinking like that, you're much more likely to draw things to you. And then I've got remember the top charismatic traits as well, because one of the things that we hear from our members when they say they've been on a terrific date is that they always mention these key things, and one of the first ones is authenticity. So somebody who feels comfortable in their skin is always just great to be around. That's one of the top things that people come out with when we ask them what they want in a partner. And another one is kindness. I mean, that's self-explanatory. But the third one is warmth. Yeah, warmth is a very central trait because it means that people will open up to you, but people feel comfortable with you, and also the person feels comfortable themselves. So it's really nice to think about those kind of traits that you might want to portray on a date as well. Then we need to fight the enemies. So what do you think the enemies are of dating in terms of mindset? Fear of, huh?
Self-doubt.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fear of rejection. Okay, let's do rejection first. And for this, I'm going to talk about. Has anyone heard of Windy Dryden? So he was. He does basically an offshoot of REBT, and he said to me, the best way to get over rejection is to get rejected. Hear me out on this one. Right. So his supervisor was a guy called Albert Ellis, so he founded the whole REBT movement, and he was terrified of being rejected by a woman. So, being a smart psychologist, what he did was he said, right, okay, I'm going to ask 100 women out, okay, and see how that goes. Right, you tell me, what do you think the ratio was of women that said yes and women that said no?
60-40?
60-40?
70-30.
70-30. 90-10, in which direction?
92 no's.
90, yeah. So yeah, he's closest. Yeah, so basically, 98 women said no, 1 said yes, and 1 was a no-show. So, but he got over his fear of rejection, which was the object of the exercise. So then he asked another, no, he didn't really. So I don't know what happened next. I don't know what happened after that. But the whole point was, you know, he got over his fear of rejection. It's a bit like being on a dating app, yeah? You know, apparently you do these smiles first of all, right? So if you smile at the first person and they don't return a smile, you probably feel a bit like rejected. But after 50 smiles, you don't really care. You probably can't even remember who you smiled at, you know? So this is it. So it's really important to just get comfortable. Rejection's just part of the scene. You know, we have members that say to us, oh, this person didn't want to meet me, it's so sad. Well, it's just a dating game. Move on, you know? Another one is avoidance. So there's 2 things with avoidance. I think that very often at a subconscious level, we put things in the way of dating because we don't want to be rejected, so we're just avoiding the whole thing. The important thing with this is, first of all, you're going to be aware that you're doing it. Because like I said earlier, a lot of things happen at a subconscious level, and we don't even realise that we are actually avoiding what we want. But then, just as with rejection, what you've got to get comfortable with is what we call, the psychological term is desensitization. Has anyone heard of that? So it's really setting like kind of small goals and things that you find manageable, and gradually just, you know, making it harder and harder, so that you just really develop, and that you know, this is a really central principle in psychology. It can apply to every area, but certainly it can apply to dating as well for those people that are scared. You can imagine we're dealing with people that have come out of a relationship after 20 years. So how do I make a start? You know, but just make starts and just do small things in the beginning. And then as well, the other one is about nerves. You know, very often people are very nervous about dating, and this can be a big barrier as well, is to feel nervous. And the answer to that really is to put the spotlight on the other person. If we're really nervous, then we're generally preoccupied with ourselves. So to put like the spotlight on the other person and to really, you know, engage with them is the best way to overcome that. And I'm going to go back to the 1800s for my example for this. bear with me because it's a bit political. But yeah, so in the 1800s there was a political battle, and it was Gladstone and Disraeli. So they were political rivals. They were also love rivals. So they were taking the same woman out to dinner. So this woman afterwards was asked, who was the best of Gladstone and Disraeli? And she said, well, Gladstone. When I was with Gladstone, I felt like he was the most clever person in the world. But when I went out with Disraeli, I thought I was the most clever person in the world. Okay, so apologies if you've heard that one before, I'm sure you have. Oh, but yeah, so
That's great.
it's great, isn't it? Yeah, because really, it's what happened was that he made her feel just like, so he was just so attentive to her, and it's just that it really helped her to open up, and apparently Bill Clinton's exactly the same. I've spoken to people that have met Bill Clinton, and he does exactly the same. He puts you in a trance because he's so attentive, and yeah, apparently it just makes you feel amazing. But I don't think we want Bill Clinton as a lover. But yeah, so really it was just trying to change the perspective a bit here on dating. It's something that we want to be excited about, and we want to see as an opportunity as well. And I think the one thing that if you didn't like anything else, the one thing I want you to take away from tonight, from my part, is treat yourself like a lover. Yeah, and change your perspective. So you've got clear on the list. So now you need to be proactive. And they say, well, why should I have to be proactive? And I say, because you're not Cinderella. And they say, oh, then I'll always get the question, always get the examples of, yeah, but I met these two people they met, and it was absolutely wonderful circumstances. And of course, that could happen to any of us, and that's great. What I'm saying is, we shouldn't sit around and wait for that experience to happen. Yeah. So being proactive is really important. And here's why I think that we grow up with this kind of mentality. I think that we often have this mentality that everything else in our life we maybe tend to work for, but when it comes to our love lives, it should be something that just happens to us. So this is why I've got these people up here now, because we tend to grow up first of all with princes. Sorry if this is like a bit English or a bit British, but we tend to grow up first of all. This is why I've got Eric up. He's the best looking Disney prince, so I thought I'd put him up. And then we can move on to the kind of what do they call them? Like the romantic leads, So we have. Does anybody recognise it? Is this just me? Darcy coming out of the lake. Come on. Yeah. Mr. Rochester here, and then Poldark. Come on. So it's just that this is the kind of mindset that we get into. Is this is what should happen to us? This is what we've grown up with. This is what we're conditioned to believe. We should just lock eyes across the crowded room to use the cliche. But it's it takes more than that as well. So I think that what we go into is this kind of reasoning, that deterministic reasoning, that this should show up for us. But really, we need to be proactive as well. If we're proactive in other areas of our lives, and we're setting goals and we're going after things, why should it be any different with this area of our life as well? So it's about overcoming the kind of procrastination element and thinking, well, this should happen, so I'm going to resist being proactive, and really getting on to just, you need to be out there, you need to meet people. Nobody meets anyone between the sofa and the fridge. It's true, isn't it? So it's important to be able to do that. Just to give you an example on this, I had a friend, Alex, and about 20 years ago she decided she was going to be really proactive on the dating scene, in a really positive way. She said, I'm going to enjoy this, I really want to meet a great guy, so this is what I'm going to do. And she went out to places where she thought she might meet somebody wonderful, and she got the part, and she just really enjoyed her single time, and yeah, she met somebody. But the funny thing was, it was outside. She went to all these great places. It was outside a kebab shop in Croydon at 3 a.m. But my message on that is, I think that effort gets rewarded. Effort gets rewarded any way you put it in life, doesn't it? So it may not come to you in the way that you think, but there you go. I would refute that a bit, because I think that we get joy from many different areas of our lives, and we don't even need a partner. Some of us haven't even got the goal for a partner. But it is important to say a lot of joy comes out of relationships, and a lot of distress can come from relationships as well. So I think to be clear about the traits that you want means that we will gravitate towards them, and then we've got the best chance of having the relationship that you want. Yeah? So how do we do it once we've got clear about what we want? So yeah, you can start with a page of A4 and let your imagination run free. Fantastic. Your dream person, that's great. But I think the thing that we always teach in psychology and in coaching is what your absolute yeses are and what your absolute nos are. And these are the key things. And a lot of that feedback will be based on very often what you've been through in previous relationships. There's things that you've been through that you think, wow, yeah, I absolutely want that again. And other things you know that you could never cope with. So these are the things to be very clear about. So it sounds simplistic, but it's a very important part of just deciding what it is that you need and what your needs are. You know, this is the most important thing. 60,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of those thoughts are going to be quite repetitive as well. So we tend to think the same kinds of thoughts. So we really need to think about, are those thoughts bringing us up and empowering us and making us enthusiastic about life, or are they bringing us down? So this is a key thing to think about as well. So question to you guys, if you thought about like the perfect relationship between two people, what words would you use to describe that? Perfect relationship between two people, what words, what would it look like?
Kindness.
Kindness, good, yeah. Loving.
Trust.
Trusting. Anything else? Respect as well, yeah, absolutely.
Supportive.
And supportive. Brilliant. So the question I would ask as well is this the relationship that you have with yourself? These are the kinds of words that we want for a relationship with ourselves as well. Okay? Yes, I'm not preaching here. I mean, some of you might have perfected that already, and that's great. You can take the pictures coming up, as I said, and that can often lead to barriers and to patterns in relationships. So what we wanted to do was to maybe explore some of those tonight, just in a fun way. So just to say as well, none of this is about kind of judging anyone or saying that anybody in the room is getting anything